Hello and welcome to episode 11 of Mama Tales, a podcast on our collective journey into motherhood. I am your host, Sally Courier. We're coming to the end of this first season, which is a bittersweet moment for me. It's sad that, the time has come to take a bit of a break, but I'm actually quite proud that I've completed an entire season. At the beginning of this, I honestly didn't think I'd be able to do this, at least not for this long. But not only have I done it, I also have some insane, exciting ideas on how to grow this platform and offer so much more value to you guys, the listeners. And all of it is actually even just stemming from the feedback that I've received so far. The season ending does not mean that Mama Tales is done. Nope. I still have so many stories to record and share. Actually, I have quite a few scheduled in the next couple of weeks. I just see it as taking a bit of time to take a breather, to rejuvenate, to reevaluate, and make sure that, more importantly, that this podcast grows with me and with you as the listeners, so that, even the topics that are discussed and everything that happens on the platform makes a lot more sense to you and where you're at with your life right now. During this break, I'll be recording stories and also experimenting with other content directions, which I'm itching to try. And I think I am excited for season 2. I'm not entirely sure when it will be coming up, but definitely keep an eye on that on the socials. I'll be sharing once I have a definite date on when season 2 is coming. Anyways, to close things off, I have such an amazing, eye-opening and refreshing story to share. So our mama this episode is Nicole. So Nicole is a fellow podcaster. Yay. Her podcast is called Back to Basics by Ruby Mamas. On her podcast, she shares refreshing and honest conversations to redefine motherhood. And I think that's what I felt when we were just going through her journey, and I think we had such a long conversation, which was so beautiful and eye-opening, as I've said before, and just you're just left thinking, just thinking to just question and really understand and trust what your body can do. So Nicole is, other than just being an amazing podcaster and a mom plus wife, she is a childbirth and pain management educator, and most importantly, such a sweet soul. So Nicole figured out her passion was in childbirth at such a young age and did not hesitate to follow it. So we had such a great conversation. It's pretty long, so what I've done is split her story into 2. So part 1 will talk about her passion. That's everything around what being a childbirth educator even means and how she supports moms deliver babies into this world, and everything around prenatal and postpartum care. In part 2, we will now get into her own story and how she delivered her baby at home with her husband. This was such a profound conversation, which I think I've mentioned for the upteenth time, just because of just how, I don't know, it was just melt in my heart kind of convo, which I truly, truly enjoyed. So let me just stop yapping about it and let us just jump into it. But before we do, please keep in mind these words. Pregnancy is a state of wellness. Let that sink in a little bit. Enjoy.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nicole Adera. I am 24 and I'm a childbirth educator and fear and pain management practitioner. And I have a 1-year-old soon. I got into pregnancy and birth stuff when I was 19. Yeah, so basically I started planning for my baby's conception when I was 19. So that's how I got into birth work. And yeah, that's how I ended up here.
Wow. So actually, yeah, that's a very good place to start with, because I think at 19, definitely that was nowhere near my mind at all, other than the fact that I knew I wanted babies, but it was never how to get into that. So maybe just as you talk about what it is that you do with as a childbirth educator, you could just go back to that point of inception of where this kind of passion came in and how you trained yourself to be where you are now.
I was talking to my mom the other day, actually, and she was telling me that I you know those movies where people are giving birth, basically, yeah, the whole dramatization and everything, when I was like 5 or 6. And she said I'd make my sister, like, we'd practice, we'd role play the whole doctor, like the whole birth thing. And I'd be yelling, push, push, push. But yeah, so I guess my obsession with birth started then. I'd spend a lot of time watching give birth. Like, watching people give birth in the hospital made me uncomfortable. So I'd watch like animals. Like, it would really be interesting to me. I'd be hanging out with my friends and I'd be watching, animal birth videos.
Wow. So
But yeah,
instead of watching actual people giving birth, you'd prefer watching animals do it.
yeah, because when I'd watch like births in the hospital, it would get to a point where like I'd get like a tingling in my spine. So it'd make me really uncomfortable. I couldn't finish the video. Like, I'd either skip through the pushing and whatever to when the baby comes, or just like skip through the whole thing. Just watching animal births made me feel so much more calm. Like, it made more sense in my head somehow.
So then when did it turn
So,
legit? Then when did we move away from the animals to actual
right?
humans? Yeah.
One day I was on YouTube and I saw this woman giving birth in a forest by the stream. And I was like, oh my goodness, yes. I was like, yeah, this is how I want to give birth, basically. And I was like, this looks so peaceful and fun. And yeah, it made so much sense to me. Anyway, fast forward to 19, and I met my now husband. And, I think from then we just knew we were it for each other, I guess.
Yeah.
And yeah, so somehow like babies just came into my field of thought. And yeah, and I had a very like difficult relationship with my parents. I think that was the motivation for me getting into birth, because I was like, you know what, if I want to change how I raise my children or heal like the traumas from my growing up, it has to start from when I give birth. So I was like, sawa basi.
Yeah.
From now, I'm planning for when I'm gonna have my next baby. So I was like, okay, 3 years is good, because I'll be done with uni, and then I'll be fresh out of uni. It'll be a nice time to have a baby. I won't be too old. And then I won't have to juggle like work and everything. So yeah, I started preparing. I did a lot of emotional work, a lot of mental healing. I took out my birth control, I think just before I got pregnant. And the funny thing is, we got married, but I had never intended on us getting married so soon. So my plan was we'd have the baby, and then, marriage will happen at some point or not. Like, I was really okay with either or. But yeah, so I think we're just sitting down one day and my husband was like, yeah, like this is where I want to be. I don't see myself changing my mind anytime soon. And we're like, yeah, so let's do this. So we planned, we went to the AG. It was really low key. And 2 months later, I got pregnant.
Wow.
And so in between these 3 years, I had been educating myself on all things birth, pregnancy, parenting. Like, I'd already established what kind of parent I wanted to be. It was just to get pregnant. That was all that's left. We got married, and that's when I was like, okay, fine, now we can try. And then COVID happened. So I hadn't graduated yet, but I wasn't going to school. So I was like, this is pretty, like, things are working out perfectly so far. And yeah, so during my pregnancy, I did my childbirth education course. So I used that as my prenatal education. And then yeah, so we were trying for a few months. It was so funny. I had this chemist I'd go to. Like, it'd go to a point where he would just like, yo, Nicole, I'm praying for you. And I was like, thanks. And then yeah, and then because I was buying pregnancy tests from him.
Yeah.
So he was just like, yeah, Nicole, I've been praying for you, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, thank you so much. And then when I got pregnant, I actually went back to him and I'm like, look, we're having a baby. It was so funny.
So what's interesting
But
before you
yeah.
continue, is that at least from what I'm getting, your journey into understanding everything childbirth was fueled by your own desire and need to have like a fulfilling experience. Because in my mind, what I'd thought is that it was more outward facing, like you wanted to help more people at the very beginning. So I don't know if that's a very good interpretation, that you actually wanted to first see how you can do it yourself, and then the outside part of it came later. Is that a
Exactly.
good?
Yeah, I think that was it. Yeah, because I saw that a lot of people either have like, issues with their parent, their father or their mother, or both,
Yeah.
And I had issues with both. Like it's been very rough. And I saw that where like our issue started was from their growing up. So like logically, I was like, to change all of that, like why not start off on like good, what's the word I'm looking for?
Good
Start off well.
foundation. No, okay.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, so I was like, why not start the foundation well? And the foundation, like logically to me, was how I give birth, like what my pregnancy would be like. And that's how I found out about physiological birth. I found out about the history and the origins of obstetric care. And I was like, this makes so much sense. Like, see the connections in how we were birthed and how our mothers were treated is affecting how we are now. And yeah, and I was like, okay, fine. Like, I guess this, like, I can't know this and not share it,
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's how I was like, okay, I guess this is my path. And then yeah, it was convenient that I love birth. I love talking about birth. I love watching videos. And then yeah, and podcasts. That's how I actually found podcasts as well.
Okay,
I was
going
listening
through
to birth stories.
A follow-up question would be, you were your first client, yes? Am I?
Essentially, yes.
What does you being a childbirth educator entail?
Okay, so part of me being a childbirth educator is I work with women and educate them on how their bodies like are made to birth. All the connections from your brain to your throat to your cervix to your mind, all of that is connected to how you're going to birth and how your experience will probably be like. So my job is just to prepare you to know, just to get comfortable with your body. Because, I can imagine like if you get pregnant and you don't know what's going on, like what the purpose of each feeling is.
Yeah.
Like, how you were talking about the cramping, right? Yeah. So it's basically my role is to just, get you comfortable, because imagine you're prepared for the cramping. It wouldn't be as scary,
True.
as opposed to when when you're feeling that implantation cramping and you don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Your mind can just jump to the worst things. Yeah, my job is to prepare you for what your body's going to do, what's going to happen after, especially because in our society right now, postpartum is so like neglected. And I'd say like that's the most transformative, or like the biggest adjustment, let me say that.
Yeah.
Going from like just being you to having a baby. But then it's not something that's focused on when you go to your OB, like just general women's care. You're not taught about like herbs you should use to reduce bleeding, like let's say vaginal steaming. That's like an ancient practice that was used for women to help healing during postpartum. So it's like there's been studies that have been done that show that if you do steaming, women who steam as opposed to women who don't steam have reduced bleeding quicker. So their uterus is back to normal by that 6-week checkup. And yeah, so it's just things like that, things that are going back to basics. Because at the end of the day, the hospital just showed up. Your body didn't just start giving birth when a doctor just, happened upon women's reproductive organ.
Yeah, true.
People were giving birth. They were taking care of themselves. They were taking care of each other. They were taking care of their babies. And it's not that birth had like, it's not that your body became broken all of a sudden. It's all these things that were added in that are interrupting the natural like cycle of your body. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Because I think, and I felt this a lot during my own journey, because first of all, I I still, even just the mere thought of going for those monthly clinics when you're pregnant and waiting in line forever to just hear a
Yes.
heartbeat and then possibly see but I feel like the second time around, I'd probably want to do something a little bit different if at all I can, just sit with my guy and be like, okay, show me the ones I have to come for, and then just be able to be in tune with my own body, because at this point in time, pregnancy is starting to feel like you're sick, right? That's why you need a doctor if you're sick.
Exactly. Yeah.
But you
Yeah,
really
and that's
are
like
not.
another part of my job. Yeah, just reinforcing that pregnancy is a state of wellness. There's so many things that have to go right in your body to align
Yeah.
for you to be able to sustain this life,
Mm-hmm.
And just things like going to a hospital, like no, there's no other reason people go to a hospital aside from when they're ill.
Yeah.
And these things, like, they're being planted in your brain. So instead of preparing for this life, for 9 months, you're
Mm-hmm.
programming your brain to think that this thing, this sickness in it that it needs to remove.
Yeah.
All these things, like doing these blood tests. You go to the hospital and then most people end up more worried than when they left.
What about this side where, the hospital, fine, might not be the very best place to go, but it might calm a mother down to know that if anything goes wrong, there's a doctor there, right? So I think that's why a lot of people might go to the hospital. So like, what is your take on that side of just like, hey, by me, if anything goes wrong, I'd rather be with a doctor in a hospital admitted as opposed to trying to do this thing on my own elsewhere.
That's a good question. I feel like it's such deep work, because especially as women, like, you've been raised not to trust your body and trust your thoughts and your instincts. Natural, if you're going through such a big experience, to want like this other person to tell you that everything's okay, that you're doing the right thing. But like, I always ask, what if nothing goes wrong? Why not back the other side, like, just, because you're not just going into this blindly. If you're eating right and you're exercising, of course sometimes things just happen, and that's why the hospital is there.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't stop someone from running just because they might break their leg. What if, like, imagine your daughter wanted to go, like, be a motocross rider.
Yeah.
Like, you wouldn't be like, no, 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 you're not going to do that. What if your bike, like, suddenly stops working, or your brakes stop
Yeah.
working? I'm always like, if you can't live in such fear, otherwise there's no point of you leaving the house, because you could die in the car, you could die on the way down the stairs. All these things could go wrong. Like, life is not safe, but you just have to back yourself and just trust in the process. But it's a lot of work, just changing that mindset.
Yeah.
It's taken a lot, because even me, when I was doing my home birth, I was like, what happened if everything goes wrong? What if you need, I don't know what? But it's like, first of all, you can call an ambulance. And there's hospitals quite everywhere. There's Most people live in like a close enough distance to a hospital that if you needed it,
Yeah.
you could go. But yeah, I think it's a lot of work, because even the whole system is built on the fact that they're telling you that your body is broken. This
Yeah.
baby is treated like an illness, like a disease.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I just think, it takes a lot of mental work, a lot of asking yourself questions, like finding out where all these fears have come from. Like, are they yours or they're someone else's? Like, that's a lot of the work that I do people.
Okay. And what would you say for the moms that you help out? Are they usually mostly first time moms or moms who've done this before?
I think most of them are either like second time moms who have had the experience, but then they felt that there's something they were missing. Or they've had a negative experience in the hospital, and they want to, just change up the experience. Because at the end of the day, this whole thing of at least the baby and the mom are alive or not, I don't think that should be people's gold standard for your birth experience. You know, you deserve to enjoy it. You deserve to feel good about yourself after. Like, even if things don't go the way you plan, it's good to feel like, you know, yes, I did. Like, I made these choices for myself and, you know, I backed myself, but, you know, sometimes things just happen. Instead of going and feeling like, oh, I did something wrong, or my body's broken, or you've been, you know, there's a lot of cases of sexual abuse in the hospital that are not talked about, you know. Even the whole practice of cervical checks is rooted in sexual assault of women. Like, that's simple practice, you know. And all these things are important. Like, I always ask people, like, when you're having sex, you don't invite your doctor or sex therapist there to like watch your positions or, you know, check if you're lubricated enough. Like, things don't go smoothly like that.
You raise a fair point. There used to be a birth center at some point before, but then
Eve's Mamas, right?
Yes, but then the gava just like clamped on that stuff. So do you usually feel do you feel any type of pressure from at least a regulatory standpoint, or does that not even interfere with what you do?
I did at first, because I initially wanted to be a midwife, but to be a midwife in Kenya, I think you need to have a nursing degree first, and, you know, I don't think the two are related, or or that you need a nursing degree to be a midwife. You know? Traditionally, midwives it's a role given to you by the community. It's not something you go to school and learn, you know, or it's passed down. Maybe your mom was a midwife and an aunt, or your auntie, and you followed them, you know. Midwifery is an art. It's not a science, not a medical practice. So it took me a while to figure out how I wanted to support women. And at first I was calling myself a doula, but it doesn't resonate with me as well, because being a doula is kind of like, okay, let me just say it, because this is the best way I can describe it. Someone being a doula is holding someone else's hand in case they, like, to support them in case they get assaulted, you know. But I don't think it's like that. But I don't think there's space for us, you know. It's like a fluffer role, because if I take you to the hospital, I can't really do anything, because the role of a doula, most people say, is to advocate for you and to make your labor easier. And my thing was, I didn't want to attend births at the hospital, first of all, because I get really anxious, and I didn't want to transmit that anxiety to the mother. So I was like, I can't really operate in a doula role in the hospital. And even if something's going wrong, like, let's say I see them giving you an episiotomy without, like, your consent, I can't really say anything, or if I do, I could be kicked out of the hospital room, you know. So it was like, I didn't know what my place would be as a doula. So for now, I'm a childbirth educator, and then maybe when I start taking births again, I will figure that out. But yeah, do you mind if I just get into the history, like the origins of obstetrics? Just for a bit of context.
Yes, sure.
Yeah. So modern gynecology was basically, I don't want to say created, but spearheaded by this guy called Marion J. Sims during a time where it was thought of as disgusting to deal with or treat women's bodies. And how he got into it was, he was a reject from all the other hospitals, all the doctors in his area. Like, he was like the joke of the community as a doctor. So he went to some village, I can't remember where, and set up a hospital for now enslaved women. And that's how he finally discovered, that's how the speculum was invented, you know. Oh, by the way, I can look inside these women's uteruses with this thing. And he would rent out these enslaved women. And mind you, they were all 16 and below. It was at a point where women were getting fistulas because they were made to give birth back to back in, like, poor settings. They're not getting exercise. They're being mistreated, blah, blah, blah. And the only reason these slave masters took them to the doctor was because it was costing them money to not have slaves working,
Yeah.
So he basically experimented on these women, like multiple surgeries. There's this woman, she was not woman, the girl, she was 16. He operated on her, I think 6 to 10 times. All of this was without anesthesia.
Oh no.
And then he would call, yeah, and he would charge all the other doctors to come to his operating room to watch. So it's
Barbaric.
like these practices that are, these practices that are so normalized now, the women have been convinced that they need, is all like, the basis is so dirty,
Yeah.
especially as a Black person or an African person. And your body remembers this. Like, even when you're getting the cervical checks, I'm sure it feels uncomfortable.
Very.
It doesn't feel like something that should be happening, right?
Definitely.
Yeah, then as a result of the cervical checks, it increases your chance of infection. And that's why they tell you now, after your water has broken 24 hours, infection increases. But that's just because they're sticking fingers in your vagina every hour. Yeah, so they're fixing problems that they probably caused. I actually also offer like birth debriefs, because I know, like, after you give birth, the doctor doesn't usually come and sit with you and like break down what happened and how you feel about the whole process. So I offer that as a service, especially for women who've had a traumatic birth. It's just let out all those feelings, like cry it out, whatever you need to do to just, I guess, accept or see where you can move forward from your birth. Because it's a big experience, and to not like have it processed and hold all those feelings of failure and all of that with you, it can also carry to your next birth. So yeah, I offer debrief sessions so we can break down your birth, see what you might want to do different, because sometimes it can be hard to talk about it. True. And hard to explain, because you also don't know what you don't know. Does that make sense?
It does 100%. And actually, you've raised something very important, because sometimes you might think that you're okay with it. I mean, you both left the hospital and you are healthy and you're fine, but you don't realize that you carried some sort of trauma. And I felt it as I have recorded. I think the two moms that I talked to, and they just broke down as they were talking about, and this is like a year later, and they're just like, I don't know why I'm crying. And I'm like, maybe it's because the first time we've actually had to face it, and I mean, no way I qualified anyone to help you through the emotions other than just giving you space to listen to it. Yeah, so that's a really cool, great, and much needed service to have as part of that whole postnatal thing.
I've talked to some women who haven't been able to talk about their birth for like 2 years.
Yeah.
Like, even just thinking about the day would just give them hives. They start shaking, they can't breathe, all these symptoms of signs of panic attacks. These are just emotions that need to be moved out of your body. You need to talk about them, you need to cry about it, just acknowledge them so they can pass along.
Yeah, and then you can
it's
heal.
it's not something you get. Yeah, it's not an offer you get during postpartum usually. That 6-week checkup stresses me out so much, because they're always like, okay, fine, you've healed, now you can have sex, and you're like, wait. That was like the last thing on my mind, first of all.
I remember that conversation. It was that, and then what contraceptive do you want to go on? What blah blah. I'm like, okay, this isn't what I expected to be talking about when I came here. Maybe you want to tell me why? Because I remember for me, by the time I went to my 6-week checkup, like my bleeding started up again. Like, it was not like a lot of blood, and I remember I mentioned it at the end of the visit. And I was asking her, is this my period? Can my period be back really this soon? And she just looked at me and she paused. She was just like, I think it's normal. It's normal. It will happen. It might happen. But for me, I was just like, I didn't feel confident with that answer. So for the next couple of days, because it was like bright red, for the next couple of days, I was on my toes. I was just like, now this doesn't seem right. I thought I was over this.
Yeah.
am I having so it took me so long to even just understand what's happening in my body, to even
Mm-hmm.
just it regulating, to, like, when is my cycle ever going to come? Like, there was just so much. And I bled, I think I bled for 9 weeks, which just felt
Mm,
extra, to be quite honest. I was just like,
that's yeah.
what? Where do I take this information? Who do I ask?
Because they don't know. They don't know either. Their guess is as
Mm,
good as yours.
yours. Yeah. So let's go back to your journey. Now that you're pregnant and you have received your certification, like, what, using the knowledge that you've gathered, right? So how did you prepare yourself for birth?
I think before I got pregnant, I went into it thinking that I would get a midwife and I'd have a home birth and, just do all of that. I had no intentions of interacting with the hospital at all.
Mm-hmm.
And I really didn't, except for one ultrasound, which I regret to this day. Like,
Oh,
fuck,
why?
fuck that guy. Because I go there because I don't know, because I hadn't gotten an ultrasound the whole time. The only thing I'd done was a pregnancy test. So now I'm
Mm-hmm.
feeling these kicks, and I'm like, they feel like they're a bit too many,
Uh-huh.
and I didn't want to have like surprise twins,
Mm-hmm.
because my mom's a twin.
Oh, so it was
So
a
I went.
actual fear.
It wasn't even a fear. I was just like, you know what? Let me not get to the day, and then I think I'm done. And then pop, there's another one. So I went there, and like I told him, I'm like, I just want to know that there's just one baby first of all,
Mm-hmm.
and that everything's growing normally. Yeah, I
Yeah.
wanted like less than 10 minutes. That's all I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I don't want to know the gender. And then he's like, so here's the labia. I'm like, what the fuck?
I just said I don't want. Oh,
So
man.
I was just like, whatever. So he shows me that, he checks the heart. I'm like, okay, can I go now? That was like my first and second. The next time I interacted with the hospital was after, which I also regret.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so for me, prenatal care looked like moving like gently. So I'd do yoga. I'd do really deep squats, and then I would when she got bigger, I was doing this position where I was trying to make sure she stayed head down. I would get on my knees
Mm-hmm.
and then kind of like a child's pose, and then
Ah.
invert, like bend forward. So I'm
Mm.
kind of making sure she's being pushed like down toward my pelvis. So I think she was head down from like 28 weeks till I gave birth.
Mm-hmm.
I'd check in like myself. So I'd be feeling her positions. Then I did, do you know what belly mapping is?
I have a very rough idea of it because I tried to do it. Yeah, but maybe you can just describe it.
Okay, so belly mapping is basically you draw on your belly. You can have someone else do it. You
Mm-hmm.
draw on your belly and you mark now where you'd like, let's say you'd feel the kicks and then the like hands, and you try and figure out like the position of the baby,
Yeah.
like using what way you've been feeding them, and also you can like touch yourself as well.
Mm.
And then I was measuring my fundal height to like make sure everything's growing like at the regular speed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And what else did I do? I ate really well. Oh my God. That was like, I've never eaten as well as I did when I was pregnant.
Give us like a sample diet, like a meal plan. What would you eat?
Let me not lie to you. It was chia seeds,
Uh-huh.
dengu, and avocado. Those were like my three staples.
What? Doesn't sound
Yeah. So,
particularly appetizing. But
Sally, when I tell you me and dengu, oh my God.
oh,
I was having
really?
dengu for breakfast. Oh my God.
Oh my! I do, I hate dengu.
I was having
Oh.
I loved it. But you can just do any protein, even beans, because
Yeah.
I think my body was just stocking up on protein, fats, and then all the omegas and everything. Yeah. So I had dengu for breakfast. I was having it with bread. I was having the strangest thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was eating really well, just listening to my body. And yeah, another thing is the vitamins. I tried taking those prenatal vitamins and I couldn't. It was making my head feel like really foggy. So I just alternated to taking in those the vitamins I needed in
Mm-hmm.
food form, just taking it straight from the source.
Yeah.
Because another thing is, the folic acid in prenatal vitamins isn't absorbable by your body. So you need, it's called methylfolate, not folic acid. So a lot of the
Interesting.
time, those prenatal vitamins you're taking, the folic acid isn't, like, your body can't take it in. So it's basically useless. Yeah. So like, so I was taking avocados are great source of folate. Sorry, give me a second.
No, it's okay.
She's gone.
Oh,
Yeah, so avocados are a good source of folate. I was taking fruits. What else? Yeah, just, I was just doing my thing.
Yeah,
Being
good
pregnant.
healthy diet. Yeah.
Like it was very simple. Like I wasn't worried about like blood sugar tests, my weight, all that stuff. It was just not a reality for me. And that's another thing. Yeah, a lot of these tests you go for in the hospital, you could do them yourself at home. Like that blood sugar test. You know, the one you can buy at the pharmacy.
Oh, for just checking your insulin levels.
So let's say maybe you like, maybe you're the type of person who likes having all the information, right? Instead of going to the hospital to pay whatever it is for consultation and a test and wait there for like, I don't know how many hours, just buy the test, do it at home, and then, check it. And then even your blood pressure, because there's this thing called white coat syndrome. So basically, when you go to the hospital, you get nervous. So naturally, your blood pressure will rise.
Yeah.
So now you could just, instead of going there and stressing yourself, and then like the information you get isn't like an accurate reading of you on a normal day. You could just do this by yourself at home. Just taking these things back into your own care. Like all of this is, you can do it. You got it.
I guess for you, since you were really into this and properly educated yourself, because I know a lot of first time moms, you just freaked out, you just like let somebody else. We are taught to just let somebody else do that for you. But definitely you show the power of just knowledge and really diving deep and especially just trusting your body and yourself to be able to care for you and to know what you need, because it's really odd that I'm a person who trusts myself a lot, but when it came to my pregnancy, I wasn't. But it's now showing up right now after my baby's, going interacting with her and realizing it's really never that serious. It's fine. My gut will tell me if I'm doing something wrong. Otherwise, everything looks okay, But I think it's a muscle you need to develop, either intentionally like you did or through experience, I think, like I did.
I remember I was telling someone, oh, the baby's head down. They're like, how would you know? I'm like, it's in my body, funny. Like, I don't believe anyone should be telling you about your body, like something about your body that you don't know. You need to practice, like, getting to know yourself. Like, if you feel something in your body, like, ask yourself where it's coming from. Like, what are you feeling when you feel those, like, that sensation, just getting in touch with yourself.
So I'll just bring these words back. Pregnancy is a state of wellness. There's so many points in this conversation that I almost felt like I was in the middle of a therapy session, at least for me and my own journey. As someone who is really preparing for a second baby, this convo could not happen soon enough, honestly. I think I will definitely sit down with her and just go through my birth experience, especially because that's a service that she provides. There's something that I'm struggling with right now. Like I've said, I am preparing for getting a second baby soon. And how freaked out and anxious you can be when you're a first-time mom, because you just don't know how you'd give birth and how the entire process works. As someone who's already gone through that process, I'm terrified, right? Because I know exactly what will happen. I think that I'd only be doing myself justice if I could just go through that process again, relive it and debug it with Nicole, and just like really, really understand, maybe where things went wrong, what I could have changed or what I couldn't have changed, what was in my power and what wasn't, because once you have that in your head, you can understand that, what, this happened this way, and maybe I can change this here, and then this one, like, honestly, there's nothing I could have done about it, especially if it was something that was making me feel bad. So I'm really looking forward for that. One big takeaway from this part of her story is like encouraging moms to be really in tune with what is going on in their bodies during pregnancy and after birth. I think it's such a transformative part of our lives and demands so much respect and awareness. Like, we can't just export that to, everyone around us. That's like our partners, the doctors, or midwife or doula, depending on what your journey is. But just like taking time to do the work that Nicole is talking about, and just really being in tune with our bodies when we go through this intensely transformative stage, especially even after you've given birth. Honestly, like if there was something that I could single-handedly change, or just whip a wand and make everything good, is just like the postpartum journey of moms. I feel like it's one thing that we severely overlook, because there's a new baby there that requires a whole lot of attention and is new and sparkly and vulnerable and all that, but we tend to forget the mom always. But that's a story for another day. We can't go into that right now. I cannot wait for you to listen to the second part of her journey and the amazing way that she brought her super adorable baby into this world. So please check out her podcast, Back to Basics by Ruby Mamas. You can also find Ruby Mamas on Instagram. I will link everything in the show notes of this episode. All right, that's it for now. See you in the next 2 weeks for the very last episode of season 1 of Mama Tales. Bye.